The morning sun rose over Colony 17 like any other day. Children laughed on their way to school. Farmers checked their crops in the fields. The settlement on New had grown peaceful over the years, far from the politics and noise of Earth. 15,000 people called this place home. Captain stood at the garrison window, drinking his morning coffee. His job was mostly boring. He settled disputes between neighbors. He made sure the supply ships landed safely. Real military action seemed like something from old stories. His second officer, Lieutenant Park, joked that their biggest threat was paperwork. Minyu walked his daughter to school that morning. The 8-year-old girl skipped ahead, her backpack bouncing. She talked about the art project she wanted to finish. Minyu smiled and promised to help her after dinner. His wife was already at the hospital, starting her shift as a medical technician. It was a normal, beautiful day. The alarm came at 10 in the morning. Captain rushed to the command center, was already there, her face pale. She pointed at the screen. 30 ships had appeared in orbit, big ships, military ships. They belonged to the Empire. His hands shook as he opened the communication channel. A commander appeared on screen. His face was covered in scales, his eyes cold and yellow. He spoke in flat, emotionless words. "This colony now belongs to the Empire. You have 1 hour to evacuate. After that, we will clear the surface for our settlers." 1 hour. Looked around the command center. They had no transport ships big enough. The colony had a few small shuttles that could carry maybe 200 people. 15,000 people needed to leave. It was impossible. Contacted the Galactic Council immediately. The Council kept peace in the galaxy. They had rules about war. You couldn't attack civilians. You couldn't bomb cities without warning. You couldn't commit genocide. The Council peacekeepers were only 3 systems away. The Council representative listened to his desperate plea. He looked sympathetic but shook his head. "This is a territorial dispute between 2 member species. We cannot intervene. We will send observers to ensure Council law is followed." Felt cold. "There are children here, families. We can't evacuate in 1 hour. "Then I suggest you begin negotiations with the Council. Regulations require us to remain neutral." The screen went dark. Tried reaching Earth's military. The nearest fleet was 6 days away at maximum speed. 6 days. They had 1 hour. The captain ordered an evacuation anyway. People rushed to the shuttles. Parents carried crying children. The elderly struggled to move quickly. Minyu grabbed and ran toward the landing field, left the hospital and tried to reach them. The hour passed. Most people were still on the ground. Stood in the garrison with 300 soldiers and 5,000 civilians who couldn't reach the shuttles in time. Set up cameras to broadcast everything to Earth. If they were going to die, someone needed to know what happened. The first plasma bolt struck the Eastern District. The school where studied every day vanished in a ball of fire. The blast wave threw Minyu to the ground. He covered with his body as burning debris fell around them. Something heavy hit his back. He felt his spine crack. His last thought was that was still breathing. Reached them minutes later. Minyu was dead, was unconscious but alive. Carried her daughter through streets that had become hell. Buildings burned. People screamed. The ships fired again and again, methodically destroying everything. The hospital took a direct hit. Had just enough time to put in an emergency shelter before the ceiling collapsed. She died holding the shelter door closed, making sure it sealed properly. Captain and lieutenant broadcast from their bunker as the world ended above them, spoke into the camera with tears running down his face. "They gave us 1 hour. We had children, we had families. The Council said it was a territorial dispute. Remember this, Earth. Remember what their rules mean." A plasma bolt punched through 50 feet of rock. The transmission ended. When the soldiers landed, they found a dead world. 14,847 bodies. The soldiers went through the emergency shelters and found 153 survivors hiding there. The commander ordered them all executed. Council rules said you couldn't kill civilians during combat, but combat was over. These were prisoners now, and they didn't want prisoners. 8-year-old survived because her mother had hidden her shelter well. The soldiers never found it. She stayed there for 3 days, alone in the dark, listening to silence. An Earth rescue ship finally arrived. They found and 26 other survivors. The rescuers walked through streets filled with bodies. They recorded everything. The children who died holding their parents' hands. The elderly who couldn't run fast enough. The hospital patients who burned in their beds. The Galactic Council met in emergency session. They reviewed the evidence. They debated for hours. Finally, they issued their judgment. The Empire had violated Article 12, Section 4 of the War Conduct Code by providing insufficient evacuation time. They would pay a fine of 50 million credits and issue a formal apology. 50 million credits, 3,000 credits per human life. The council representatives seemed pleased they had maintained order and justice. Earth's ambassador to the council was a calm man named. He had served for 20 years, always diplomatic, always professional. He listened to the judgment without expression. Then he stood up and walked out of the council chambers without a word. Every human ship in council space began moving. They didn't attack anyone. They didn't make threats. They just left. Trade ships, diplomatic vessels, science expeditions. All of them jumped to faster-than-light speed and headed home. Human colonies went dark. They stopped answering messages from other species. Earth's embassies closed. The communication channels that humanity had maintained for 50 years went silent. The Council tried to contact Earth for weeks. No one answered. Some Council members worried. Most assumed humans were grieving and would return to normal eventually. After all, what could one small species do? Earth had 30 colonies and a modest military. They would accept the Council's judgment because they had no choice. Deep in Earth's solar system, everything changed. Admiral Han stood before the human government and said 4 words that would reshape the galaxy. Never again. No mercy. 6 months passed in strange silence. The Galactic Council grew nervous. Humanity had always been present in council affairs. They traded with dozens of species. Their diplomats attended every session. Human scientists collaborated on research projects across the galaxy. Now there was nothing, just silence. Ships that approached human space received one message: turn back. No exceptions. Those who ignored the warning found themselves facing human military vessels that tracked them until they left. No communication, no negotiation, just cold surveillance until the intruders departed. Trade routes that passed through human territory were redirected. Species that depended on human goods had to find new suppliers. The Council sent 3 diplomatic missions. All 3 were turned away at the border without explanation. Finally, Earth requested a council session. Ambassador would address the assembly. The council members felt relieved. Clearly, humanity had finished grieving and was ready to return to normal operations. Some representatives prepared speeches welcoming humanity back into galactic society. Walked into the council chambers 6 months after Nu died. He looked different. His diplomatic robes were gone. Instead, he wore a simple black uniform with no decoration. His face was thinner. His eyes were harder. He walked to the speaking platform without greeting anyone. The council waited for him to speak. He placed a data chip on the platform and activated it. Images filled the air. Nu before the attack, children playing, markets full of people. Then the images changed. The burning, the bodies, the survivors being executed, 8-year-old crying alone in her shelter. The council members shifted uncomfortably. They had seen these images before. This was why they had found the spoke in a flat, emotionless voice. The Galactic Council determined that 15,000 human lives were worth 50 million credits and an apology. We appreciate your commitment to justice. Several council members nodded. The sarcasm seemed lost on them. Earth has reviewed your laws regarding warfare. We studied your regulations about proportional response. We examined your rules about civilian protection. We understand now that these rules exist to protect those who follow them. We also understand that those who break them face minimal consequences. The representative stood up. Ambassador, your species agreed to council law when you joined. If you disagree with our justice system, you may file an appeal through proper channels. Looked at him, his face showed nothing. We did file an appeal. We appealed to your mercy, to your sense of justice, to your basic decency. You responded with a fine that wouldn't buy a shuttle and an apology written by a legal team. The chamber grew quiet. This was not how humans usually spoke in council. Where was the diplomacy, the careful language, the respectful tone? Effective immediately, Earth withdraws from all Galactic Council warfare protocols. We will no longer limit our weapons. We will no longer calculate proportional response. We will no longer distinguish between military and civilian targets when responding to attacks on our people. The council erupted. Representatives shouted. Some laughed. Some looked genuinely concerned. The council chairman called for order and finally achieved it. Ambassador, such statements violate a dozen council laws. You cannot simply withdraw from treaties. Your species is bound by the agreements you signed. Smiled, it was not a pleasant expression. You are correct. We signed agreements. We trusted that everyone else would honor them too. New taught us the value of trust. He tapped another button. New images appeared. Ships. Huge ships being built in orbit around Earth. Space stations converted to weapons factories. Asteroid belts being mined at massive scale. Humanity has spent 6 months building a new military. We have created weapons your council banned centuries ago. We have trained soldiers for one purpose. We have converted our entire civilization to war preparation. And we have created one new law. The chamber was completely silent now. Any species that attacks human civilians will face total response. We will not negotiate. We will not show mercy. We will not stop until that species no longer has the capacity to harm any human ever again. This is not a threat. This is a promise. The representative, a species known for their warrior culture, stood up. Young species make bold threats. You have 30 colonies and a small fleet. They have 300 worlds and legions that have conquered dozens of species. Your anger is understandable, but reality is reality. Turn to face him. You are correct. They are more powerful than us by every standard measure. However, they follow council rules. They calculate proportional response. They distinguish between civilian and military targets. They value their own civilians and protect them according to council law. He paused, letting the words sink in. We don't, not anymore. You took away our innocence. You taught us that rules are just words, easily broken when convenient. So we will show you what humans are when they stop pretending to be civilized. The council chairman tried to regain control. This assembly cannot allow such declarations. We will impose sanctions. We will restrict access to council space. We will, if necessary, authorize military intervention to restore order. Gathered his data chips. He walked toward the exit, then stopped and turned back. Intervene, please. We would welcome the opportunity to educate more of you about what humans are capable of when you kill our children. He left the chamber. Within minutes, 3 species announced they were withdrawing their forces from positions near human space. 5 more species quietly began sending diplomatic messages to Earth, trying to establish friendly relations. The rest of the council argued about what to do. The Empire issued a statement calling humanity's threats meaningless. They had crushed stronger species than humans. They controlled 300 worlds with billions of loyal subjects. One human colony meant nothing to them. 2 weeks later, they attacked Colony 4. They followed the same pattern. 1 hour warning. Bombardment. 5,000 humans died. The commander reported success to his superiors. The council prepared another emergency session to discuss appropriate fines. Admiral Han sat in Earth's command center and watched the reports from Colony 4. She was a small woman with gray hair and calm eyes. She had served in Earth's military for 30 years, mostly fighting pirates and doing rescue operations. She had never wanted to become what she was about to become. Around her, the command center buzzed with activity. Dr. Lee weapon systems. Colonel confirmed troop readiness. Captain prepared the assault fleet. They all waited for her order. In another room, Park suited up with his unit. He was 23 years old. His parents and younger sister had died on Nu. He had volunteered for the military the day after the attack. He trained harder than anyone else. He never smiled anymore. He was exactly what humanity needed now. Admiral reviewed the attack plan one final time. It was brutal. It was excessive. It violated every principle she had spent her career upholding. She thought about the 5,000 people who died on Colony 4. She thought about hiding in her shelter. She thought about the Council's 50 million credit fine. She gave the order, "Show them what we are now." The human fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed. 30 ships headed toward the home system. They carried weapons the galaxy had not seen in centuries. They carried soldiers trained to be ruthless. They carried humanity's rage. The defensive fleet detected the human ships at the edge of their home system. 40 vessels moved to intercept. They had fought hundreds of battles. They knew how warfare worked. 2 fleets would meet, exchange fire, and the stronger force would win. They were confident they were stronger. The human ships did something unexpected. They ignored the defensive fleet completely. Instead of slowing down to engage, they accelerated. Their engines burned at dangerous levels, pushing past safety limits. They drove straight toward The commander was confused but not worried. Humans would never reach the planet. His ships would catch them from behind. The orbital defense platforms would destroy them from ahead. The humans were trapped. He ordered pursuit and contacted to prepare the defense stations. On the lead human ship, Admiral Han watched the distances shrink. The fleet was following them exactly as planned. The defense platforms were powering up weapons exactly as planned. The human ships were approaching maximum range for their payload exactly as planned. She gave the order, "Release." Every human ship launched its cargo. Hundreds of metal cylinders, each 50 feet long, shot forward into space. They had no engines, no guidance systems. They didn't need them. Physics would do the work now. The cylinders accelerated, faster and faster. The human ships had been moving at tremendous speed already. The cylinders carried that momentum and added more. Within minutes, they reached a fraction of light speed. They became pure kinetic energy wrapped in metal. The defense platforms fired at the approaching cylinders. Some were destroyed, most were not. The platforms had been designed to shoot at ships that dodged and maneuvered. These cylinders just flew straight. Too small, too fast, too many. The first cylinder hit the northern continent. The impact released energy equivalent to 50 nuclear weapons. The entire continent flashed into plasma. Mountains evaporated. Cities vanished. Millions died instantly. More cylinders struck. The southern ocean boiled. The eastern continent cracked open. The western cities melted. Each impact created a shockwave that circled the planet. Earthquakes stronger than any natural disaster tore through the crust. Volcanoes erupted across the surface. The atmosphere began burning. On the defensive fleet, the commander watched his die. He screamed orders to fire on the human ships, but they were already leaving. They had done what they came to do. His fleet gave chase, but the humans jumped to faster-than-light speed and disappeared. The entire attack took 4 hours. 3 billion civilians died. That had stood for 6,000 years became an uninhabitable rock. But humanity was not finished. While the main fleet retreated, A smaller force appeared near the capital planet in another system. This planet held the government centers, the military command, the imperial palace where the High Command planned their wars. Commander led this operation. She was calm and professional as she gave orders. Her ships surrounded the planet, blocking any escape. Then she activated a new technology that Earth scientists had developed, quantum displacement. 50 soldiers appeared inside the Imperial Palace. One moment they were on the ship. The next moment they were in the throne room. The guards fired immediately. 3 humans died. The rest killed every guard in seconds. Park led his squad through the palace halls. They met resistance at every turn. Soldiers fought desperately to protect their leaders, felt nothing as he killed them. No anger, no satisfaction, just the mechanical process of eliminating targets. They found the High Command in the war room, 12 generals and the Emperor. The Emperor tried to speak, perhaps to negotiate or surrender. Didn't care. His squad executed all 13 of them. No trials, no prisoners, just executions. Other teams hit government buildings, military headquarters, and communication centers. Within 2 hours, the command structure ceased to exist. The soldiers teleported back to their ships and jumped away before any organized response could form. The Galactic Council received reports of the attacks within hours. The scale of destruction shocked even the warrior species. 3 billion dead, an entire world destroyed, the leadership of a major empire wiped out. 20 species demanded immediate action. Emergency sessions were called. The council debated sanctions, military intervention, and war crimes tribunals. They prepared charges against humanity for violations of a dozen council laws. Ambassador appeared before them again. The council chairman began reading the charges, waited until he finished. Then activated a display. Images from Nu filled the chamber, the children burning, the elderly being executed, the survivors begging for mercy before soldiers killed them. They gave us 1 hour to evacuate 15,000 people. When we couldn't, they burned our children alive. When survivors hid, they hunted them down and executed them. You find them 50 million credits. He changed the image to show the before the attack. Cities full of life, parks where children played, markets full of civilians. We gave the no warning. We destroyed there in 4 hours. We killed their leaders in their own palace. This is what you taught us to do. This is the justice you showed us has value. The council erupted in shouts. Representatives called humans monsters, savages, criminals. The chairman struggled to maintain order. Waited for silence. When it finally came, he spoke quietly. You want to put us on trial, for what? We followed your example. You showed us that civilian lives have a price and that price is very small. We simply applied your logic. They killed 20,000 humans across 2 colonies. We killed 3 billion, that seems proportional to us. The representative stood. The council laws exist to prevent exactly this kind of escalation. You have started a war that could consume the galaxy. Turn to face him. The war started when the attack knew. We tried your way first. We trusted your counsel. We believed in your laws. We were wrong. The galaxy runs on violence. You just dress it up in procedures and fines. We have removed the dress. The council chairman threatened sanctions, blockades, military intervention. Species after species condemned humanity's actions. Listened to all of it without expression. When they finished, he spoke one more time. You can condemn us, you can threaten us, you can even attack us, but understand this. Every species that harms a human civilian will face what they faced: total destruction. No negotiations, no mercy, no limits. This is not a bluff. This is a promise written in 3 billion lives. He paused and looked around the chamber. You taught us that strength is all that matters in this galaxy, that rules only apply to those too weak to break them, that our children's lives mean nothing unless we make them mean something. Thank you for the lesson. We learned it well. 3 species their forces from near-human space that same day. 5 more sent diplomatic messages expressing their desire for peaceful relations with Earth. The collective, a peaceful trading species, immediately offered trade agreements on extremely favorable terms. The remnant world sent desperate messages to Earth. Some surrendered immediately. Some tried to negotiate. Some prepared for continued resistance. Humanity's response was the same to all of them: unconditional surrender or total destruction. The Council fell into chaos. Some species argued for military action against humanity. Others argued for appeasement. Most simply tried to stay as far from the situation as possible. The careful balance of power that had maintained galactic peace for 3 centuries was shattered. Admiral Han stood on the bridge of her flagship and watched reports come in. They were broken. The Council was terrified. Humanity's message was clear. But in a quiet moment alone, she looked at pictures of the cities that had stood for thousands of years, the parks where children had played, all gone now, because of her orders. She thought about a quote from an ancient Earth philosopher: "Be careful when fighting monsters, lest you become one yourself." Too late for that warning now. Humanity had become what it needed to become to survive. Whether that was victory or defeat, only time would tell. The Empire collapsed. 20 colony worlds surrendered to Earth within days. 30 more tried to maintain independence but lacked the resources or organization. The rest descended into chaos as different factions fought for control. Humanity watched and waited, ready to strike any that showed aggression. Captain commanded the occupation forces on Colony 7. She was 32 years old and had never wanted to be a soldier. Before new, she taught history at a university on Earth. Now she walked through alien cities with a rifle, enforcing humanity's will. Her orders were simple: maintain control and prevent any resistance. The civilians avoided looking at human soldiers. They hurried through streets, heads down, trying to be invisible. Some looked at the humans with hate. Most just looked afraid. The problem came 3 weeks into the occupation. A human supply convoy was attacked by resistance fighters. 6 humans died. The fighters melted back into the civilian population before forces could respond. She contacted Admiral Han for instructions. The Admiral's response was immediate and clear: find the district where the attack occurred. Evacuate all human personnel. Destroy it. Looked at the map. The attack happened in the Eastern District. 50,000 lived there. Families, workers, children, maybe a dozen were actual fighters. Admiral, the casualties would be 50,000 civilians protecting a dozen fighters. That is their choice. Execute the order, Captain. Evacuated her troops. Then she called in an orbital strike. Plasma fire rained from the sky. The Eastern District burned. When the fires died, 50,000 were dead. The message was clear: hide fighters, lose everything. Resistance attacks on Colony 7 stopped immediately. So did attacks on every other occupied world. The fighters had expected humans to hunt for them, to investigate, to try to minimize civilian casualties. Humanity did none of those things. They simply killed everyone in the area and moved on. Dr. Song was embedded with occupation forces as a civilian observer. He was supposed to document the occupation for historical records. He watched the Eastern District burn and filed a report questioning whether such extreme measures were necessary. Admiral Han read his report personally. She sent a 1-line response: "Your services are no longer required. Return to Earth." Was on a transport ship the next day. There was no place in the new human military for those who questioned. On the frontier, other species tested humanity's resolve. The Confederacy had a long history of raiding isolated settlements. They usually took supplies and left. Sometimes they took prisoners for ransom. It was profitable and relatively safe because council law limited retaliation. A raiding party attacked a human mining station on the edge of controlled space. They expected a proportional response. Maybe a patrol ship would chase them. Maybe humans would demand compensation. Standard procedure. Captain Bay commanded the patrol frigate that responded to the distress call. She arrived too late. The raiders had killed 12 miners and stolen valuable equipment, but they left a trail. Their ships had unique energy signatures. Track them. The raiders led her to their base on a neutral asteroid. It was a large operation. Maybe 500 lived there, supporting dozens of raiding ships. They probably felt safe. The asteroid was in neutral space, outside or human territory. Broadcast one message. You have 10 minutes to evacuate. Anyone remaining after that time will be eliminated. The laughed, humans making threats. This was neutral space. They had protection under council law. A few ships left, but most stayed. They assumed the humans were bluffing. 10 minutes passed. Opened fire. Her ship's weapons cracked the asteroid open like an egg. Atmosphere vented into space. Buildings collapsed. Ships that tried to flee were destroyed. When she finished, the asteroid was a field of debris and corpses. The Confederacy sent an angry message to Earth. This was an illegal attack on neutral territory. Hundreds of civilians had died. They demanded reparations and an apology. Ambassador sent a reply within hours. Your raiders killed 12 human miners. We eliminated the raiders and their support base. Be grateful we stopped there. If any harms another human, we will come to your. The Confederacy issued a formal apology within a day. They paid Earth 50 million credits in reparations. They announced new laws strictly prohibiting any raids on human targets. The reversal was complete and immediate. The pattern repeated across the galaxy. Pirates who once saw human ships as easy targets now avoided human space entirely. Species that had disputed borders with human colonies suddenly became eager to negotiate. Governments that had ignored human complaints now listened very carefully. Humanity was winning through terror. No species wanted to test whether humans would really destroy there. The cost was too high. Better to avoid conflict entirely. But on Earth, cracks appeared in the unified front. General O had served in the military for 40 years. He had supported the initial response against the. They deserved what happened. But now, watching reports from the occupation zones, he grew concerned. He called a meeting with the military council. Admiral Han attended, along with other senior officers, presented his concerns carefully. We are winning. No one dares attack us anymore, but we are creating a galaxy that hates us. Every world we burn, every civilian that dies, creates populations that will remember for generations. We are making permanent enemies. Admiral responded coldly. They already were our enemies. They just didn't fear us before. Now they do. That is the only thing that matters. Is it? We are becoming what we hate. They burned our children, so we burned theirs. How are we different from them? We didn't start this. They attacked us first. We tried peace, diplomacy, and trusting council law. It got 15,000 of our people killed. Now we do what we must to ensure no one ever attacks us again. The debate continued for hours. Some officers agreed with, many more sided with. The military was divided, but the majority supported the current approach. Safety through overwhelming force, peace through terror. On Earth's surface, civilian protests began. A woman named Nam, who had survived Colony 4, led demonstrations against the military government's policies. She argued that humanity was sacrificing its soul in the name of security. My husband died on Colony 4. My son died in my arms. I want justice for them. But killing billions of civilians is not justice. It is revenge. And revenge is turning us into monsters. The protests grew larger. Thousands became tens of thousands. The military government tolerated them because Earth was still technically a democracy. But tensions rose. How long would tolerance last? In a small apartment on Earth, lived with her aunt. The 10-year-old girl had become a symbol. She appeared in recruitment videos, the orphan survivor whose rescue justified everything humanity did. Her face was on posters encouraging citizens to support the military. But herself felt confused. Adults told her that the war was for her, to protect children like her, to make sure no one else lost their parents. She wanted to believe that, but she also saw reports of other children dying. Children, children, children who looked scared just like she had been. She asked her aunt one night, "Are we the bad guys now?" Didn't know how to answer. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that morality gets complicated when survival is at stake? That sometimes good people do terrible things for understandable reasons. "We are trying to protect people like you," finally said. "Sometimes that means doing hard things." Thought about that. Then she said, "My mom and dad protected me. They were good people. Would they want us to kill other kids to keep me safe?" Had no answer. She just held and cried. Across human space, similar conversations happened. In military barracks, in government offices, in homes and schools. Humanity was unified in its determination to never be victims again. But the cost of that determination was rising, and not everyone was sure the price was worth paying anymore. 18 months after New burned, humanity stood at the top of the galactic power structure. They were broken. 3 other species had been after making the mistake of testing human resolve. Pirates no longer operated anywhere near human space. The Galactic Council treated human ambassadors with careful respect. Admiral Han reviewed reports in her office. Every metric showed success. Human colonies were safer than ever. Trade flourished as species competed to offer favorable terms. Military strength had grown exponentially. By every measure, her strategy had worked. But success came with costs. On Earth, the civilian government barely functioned. The military made most decisions now. Protests happened weekly, sometimes daily. The population was divided between those who supported the aggressive doctrine and those who believed humanity had lost its way. General O brought the latest protest numbers to the military council. 50,000 people had marched in Beijing, 30,000 in New York, 20,000 in Lagos. They carried signs with pictures of children who died in the bombardment. They asked hard questions about who humanity had become. "We need to address this," said. "The people are losing faith in our leadership." Admiral looked tired. She had aged visibly over the past months. "The people are safe. That is what matters. Their faith will return when they realize no one threatens them anymore." Will it? Or will they look at us and see monsters who killed billions to save thousands? The argument was interrupted by an emergency alert. A situation had developed at the frontier. A ship belonging to the collective had accidentally crossed into human space. There were peaceful traders, not warriors. Their ship was unarmed. While maneuvering near a human listening post, their engines malfunctioned. The ship bumped into the station, causing minor damage. No one was hurt. It was clearly an accident. The captain immediately apologized and offered to pay for repairs. He explained that his navigation system had failed and he had drifted into human territory by mistake. He begged for understanding. The automatic military response system triggered. The standing orders were clear. Any species that damages human assets faces total response. There was already being targeted. 3 billion people lived there. Fleet Captain Ryu received the orders to execute. He was a career officer, loyal and professional. He had carried out difficult orders before, but he sat in his command chair and stared at the target data and something broke inside him. This was not like they had not attacked anyone. They were not military aggressors. This was a navigation malfunction, an accident, and the response was to kill 3 billion people. Contacted Admiral directly. "Admiral, the incident appears to be an accident. The damage is minimal. No casualties. Should we proceed with standard response protocols? Admiral's face appeared on his screen. She looked exhausted, but her voice was firm. The doctrine is clear, Captain. Any species that damages human assets faces total response. There can be no exceptions or the deterrent fails. Everyone must know that any harm to humans, intentional or not, brings absolute consequences. Admiral, 3 billion civilians. Execute your orders, Captain. Close the channel. He looked around his bridge. His crew waited for commands. Among them was Park, ready to fire the weapons that would end billions of lives, and others like him, people who had lost everything and wanted the galaxy to pay. But there were also young officers like Han, a 22-year-old ensign fresh from training, had joined the military to protect humanity, to be a hero. Now he sat at his console, hands shaking, realizing he was about to help commit genocide against a peaceful species. Made his decision. Belay that order, stand down from attack posture. His tactical officer looked shocked. Sir, we have direct orders from Admiral Han. I am refusing those orders. The incident was an accident. We are not going to kill 3 billion people over a damaged sensor array and hurt feelings. Half his crew supported him immediately. They had been waiting for someone to say what they all felt. The other half protested. Orders were orders. The doctrine was absolute. Refusing orders meant mutiny. Broadcast to the fleet, 12 ships followed him. 15 stayed loyal to Admiral's orders. The human military split. News of the mutiny spread across Earth within hours. The civilian protesters in support of. The military demanded his arrest. The government, already weak, collapsed into complete chaos. Humanity teetered on the edge of civil war. Ambassador and Admiral Han argued for maintaining the doctrine. They met with government leaders and explained that any sign of weakness would invite future attacks. The entire deterrent strategy depended on absolute consequences. If humanity showed mercy now, species would test them again. More humans would die. General O led the opposition. He argued that the situation proved the doctrine had gone too far. Humanity was destroying itself from within. They had become so focused on preventing external threats that they failed to see the internal damage. The debate raged for 3 days. Media broadcasts showed divided opinions. Military units took sides. Some colonies supported others supported reform. The human unity that had terrified the galaxy began to crack. Then asked to speak to the military council. She was 10 years old, the orphan from New, the face on all the recruitment posters, the reason given for every extreme action. When she arrived at the council chambers with her aunt, everyone stopped arguing. Looked small standing before the most powerful humans in the galaxy. Admiral Han looked at her with something like guilt. This child had lost everything, and they had used her pain to justify so much. Spoke in a quiet voice. My parents died protecting me. They put their bodies between me and the fire. They died so I could live. Everyone listened in silence. I have seen the videos. I know what we did to I know about the other species we hurt. I know that everything was done to protect people like me, to make sure no more children become orphans. She paused and looked directly at Admiral. But I think about something every night. If my parents could see what we have become, would they be proud? Would they want us to kill children like me on other worlds? Would they want me to be safe if it meant other little girls watching their parents burn? Admiral looked away. For the first time since New, tears ran down her face. Continued, I miss my parents every day. I want to feel safe. But I do not want to feel safe because everyone else is too scared of us to live. I want to feel safe because we are strong and good, not because we are monsters. The chamber was completely silent. This child, who had every right to hate, who had lost everything, was asking humanity to be better than its pain. General spoke first. The child is right. We have become what we fought against. We need to find another way. The debate that followed was different, quieter, more honest. People who had been defending the doctrine began questioning it. The absolute certainty that had driven humanity for 18 months started to crack. The decision came slowly, through days of discussion. The total response doctrine would be modified. Human military strength would remain overwhelming. The capacity for devastating retaliation would stay in place, but proportionality would return. Accidents would be treated as accidents. Civilian populations would be protected when possible. Captain Ryu was quietly pardoned. They received a warning and paid for damages, but there was spared. The relief among the population was so intense that they became humanity's strongest allies, more loyal than any species won through fear. But the galaxy had learned its lesson. Humanity was no longer the idealistic species that joined the Council seeking friendship. They were capable of mercy, but everyone knew what lay beneath the surface. The willingness to burn worlds if pushed too far, the capacity for absolute ruthlessness when their people were threatened. Nu was declared a memorial world. No one would ever live there again. The ruins stood as a reminder. Ships passing through the system could see the burned cities from orbit. A massive monument was built bearing 15,000 names. It carried one inscription. They gave us 1 hour. We will remember forever. Admiral Han retired from active service. She visited Nu once, standing alone among the ruins. She placed a single flower at the memorial. Behind her, the rebuilt human fleet maintained its vigilance. Civilized once more, but forever changed. The Galactic Council learned to treat humanity with genuine respect. Not the false respect given to the weak, but the careful respect given to the dangerous. Human ambassadors spoke softly now, but everyone remembered what happened when humanity shouted. Years later, gave an interview. She was asked about the memorial on Nu and what it meant. It means we remember. We remember what was done to us. We remember what we did in response. We remember both, so we never forget what we are capable of, good and bad. The galaxy fears us now, but my parents would not want us to be feared. They would want us to be good. We are trying to be both. The interview ended with a question about humanity's future. Smiled, and it was the first time many people had seen her smile. We prefer peace. We truly do. But if you harm our people, if you make our children cry, if you force us to choose between being good and keeping our families safe, we will choose our families every time. We have shown the galaxy what that means. Hopefully, no one will make us show them again.